Mutable Instruments Plaits was my first oscillator as I was starting in Eurorack a few years ago. Mutable Instruments themselves are now shutting down after many years of producing fantastic modules, but they aren't going out without a small surprising gift, and that is a new firmware image for the Plaits module, which adds quite a few cool features, the most exciting of which is a new FM mode, a 6-operator FM mode. So in this video, we're going to really focus on just the FM modes on Plaits. I'm going to show you how to install the firmware, how you can actually navigate using the knobs now are changed, the functions are changed, so we'll look at that. I'll also show you, most excitingly, how to find, download and install your own DX7 patches. Let's get started. So the first thing we have to do is download this new firmware and install it. Where do we find the firmware? Well, I'll include a link down below, but if you see here on the screen, the firmware is available on the forum on the Mutable Instruments website. So if you go to that URL, navigate down here and click here, you'll see that you can just download the zip file, which is just a WAV file. Now, I wouldn't recommend playing this on your speakers or headphones because it'll blast your ears out. Instead, what you need to do is use the firmware update procedure detailed in the manual for Plaits. To update the firmware, the first thing we need to do is power off our case here and then plug this into the model CV input. This is a mono patch cable. I tried a stereo cable, it didn't work, so use a mono cable. Plug that in there. Make sure frequency is at 12 o'clock. And now hold the left button, power on the case. Now we see straight away Plaits is in a very different mode than what it normally is. The bottom LEDs are blinking, indicating it's waiting for a firmware file. Now to install the firmware, we simply make sure our volume's at maximum on our computer, and then I'm going to play this audio file and we'll see these LEDs here illuminate, indicating Plaits is downloading the new firmware image. Firmware image is being downloaded, the LEDs are animating. The top LEDs here, you should have about 2 of the green ones illuminated to indicate a good level. You can adjust the gain level here with the frequency knob to make sure you get it just right. Too low a level and it won't download properly. I think that's something that has tripped up a lot of people, and I definitely found you want to use a mono cable. Once the module finishes the firmware update, you can plug out the cable, the audio cable here, and the module will reboot. Now, the first thing you'll notice is the LED here is orange, so there is a new third mode added. You don't lose the original green and red modes that we've all gotten used to, but we've now got a new orange mode which adds these 8 new waveform types and oscillators to the existing 2 that we had before. Also, the navigation has changed. You now can step through the modes using the buttons to go back and forward. You see now I'm going through the green and I can go forward again. But it's modes 3, 4 and 5 that I'm really going to focus on today, because these are the FM modes. And they're all the same. They just give you 3 banks of 32 FM presets. You can navigate through the presets using the harmonics knob, which now is a preset selection knob. The morph knob allows you to morph across different envelope shapes, so you can have a short plucky sound all the way up to a kind of a droning sound. The timbre knob now controls the modulator depth that's applied. So if you know how FM synthesis works, it's all about how you modulate one waveform using another. The level input now controls velocity, so that maps onto a velocity input like you would have on a keyboard, and a lot of these FM patches are programmed so that a velocity input changes the sound. So we're going to play around with that as well. And you trigger the sound using the trig input. Now, the classic low-pass gate that's in the other synthesis modes doesn't apply in these FM modes, so that won't work. So you're going to have to patch into the trig input here, not the level input like you might be used to doing. Well, let's stop talking and start patching, and we're going to patch it up today via the Ikarie as a stereo filter, because sometimes these FM sounds can get pretty harsh, so we're going to trim the top end there using the Ikarie. A little bit of delay and reverb coming out of the FX8 and on into the mixer. Some drums today coming from Squid Salmple, and that's going to be sequenced using the ST Chasing Lights, which is really fun as a kind of very playable step sequencer for triggering gates. Lots of outputs here. I'm going to use some of the outputs on Chasing Lights to fire off envelopes here on Ornament and Crime, which I'll be using to modulate various parameters around the patch as well. And I think the best fun I'm going to have is playing with the Intellijel Planar here. Using this joystick, the X and Y outputs are going to be modulating the FM, controls on Plaits, and we're going to get a lot of change in sound. Now we have a basic patch setup. Let's take a listen to the effect the different controls have on the sound. We'll start off on the first preset. Now this is a bank of presets I've loaded myself already, which I'll be showing you in a while how to do. So straight away we can adjust with the timbre knob. We get that classic FM sound there. The morph knob morphs through different envelope shapes, from very plucky to very long. There you go. That is that classic belly glassy FM sound. Let's add a little bit of reverb and delay over here. I want to have some more macro controls, so what I'm going to do is use planar and have the X output, which is in bipolar mode, patched into timbre here, and I'm going to turn up the attenuator there. So now I'm going to be able to attenuate the full range, and the Y output, which is in unipolar mode, so it's not going negative, is going to go into level, and that's going to control the level is the velocity input. Now I can jump to the next bank here and we can take a listen to other patches. And here you can hear that classic FM sound, kind of strings. And of course FM can also be used for percussion. Okay, how do we install our own patches onto Plaits? For example, if we had DX7 patches that we had built up ourselves or downloaded off the internet. Well, for example, this website here, which I'll include a link to down below, has the original factory ROM patches and the voice ROM patches, and we're going to use those as the example today. So I've downloaded a set of them here, but these are sysx files. How do we convert sysx files into a format the Plaits can understand? Well, thankfully Mutable have provided us with this amazing patch editor. You just select the sysx file that you want to install, and it allows you to build up a bank of patches which can then be downloaded into Plaits. You can organize these in groups of 32 to your liking. To install the patches into a bank, first of all, you need to be in an FM mode, so modes 3, 4, or 5 here. So we'll start off with mode 3. And what I'm going to do is install this bank, which is a percussion bank. I remove the timbre CV input here, and all you have to do is patch our audio output cable from the computer into timbre. We don't need to turn off or do anything to Plaits. And we just click play in the patch editor window, and it will download into the patch bank here, and it'll download those 32 presets. So you see, as it's downloading, the LEDs are illuminating. Each LED illuminates in 2 steps, and once all 16 steps have been completed and 8 LEDs are illuminated, the patches are installed in the bank and we can now play them. Now we've downloaded a percussion bank, so I'm going to mute the other sounds here, and let's just take a listen to what we have. I think we need to modulate harmonics and create an interesting glitchy beat, because we can just randomly step through these. If I want to add a bit more movement to the sound and kind of humanize it, I'm going to modulate the morph parameter, because remember, that allows me to move through the envelopes. And so now, like a more percussive sound, like a hat or something. I get a little bit more movement to it. Well, I hope this gave you a little bit of an oversight of how the FM mode works on Plaits, how you can install it, how to control it, and more importantly, how to download DX7 patches into it and have great fun exploring all of the crazy FM sounds that are out there. This, for me, totally changes Plaits into a very versatile and useful module. If you have any questions or comments, by all means, leave them to me down below. I do try and answer everything, and thank you very much for watching.